Hello and welcome to Clydebridge Station. Just at the back end of last year I purchased my 16th and final locomotive, he says, for the layout. So what I thought I'd do is, I've obviously told you lots about the layout, showed you monthly updates with the work I'm doing, done additional programmes looking at things like, for instance, the Quadrant Park nightclub that I built. And explaining the various business sectors. But what I haven't done yet, and I aim to put that right in a series of 4 videos, is actually tell you the history of the real locomotives that are modelled on my layout. And I'll also try and tell you the history of the actual models on the layout as well. So that's what I'm going to do in this series of 4 videos. The 4 videos won't all be made at one time, but I just wanted to go and do it this way so that at least you could get an idea of the types of the interesting history that each of the machines has. 2 websites I'm using for some of the information: BR Database, and for the Class 47s I'll be using class47.co.uk. So what we'll do is we'll get underway and we'll get the first 4 locomotives done with. They're going to be done in numerical order, which is just as easy for me as it will be for you. So without further ado, we'll get the first machine on and we'll give you a potted history of it. And as it's very cold here in the shed right now, I just hope that everything actually works. There we go. So this is 08673, carrying Intercity Executive livery and named Piccadilly. The model you see there is the only Hornby locomotive on the layout, and it was bought second hand on Facebook from Mike Wellsby. The shunter, as previously detailed in another video, is carrying a livery and number that Hornby has persisted with for come up for 33 years now. But what of the real 08673? Well, she was given the number D3840 and she came out of the works at Crewe in the 16th of January 1960. So in fact, at the time of filming, she wouldn't have been far off her 61st birthday if she still existed. The locomotive was initially allocated to the Carnforth depot, and it was soon moved to the Monument Lane depot, shed 21E, before Monument Lane closed in 1967. The machine then moved on to the Bescot depot in Birmingham, and it later on moved to the Longsight depot in Manchester. And it was at Longsight depot where it gained its name, Piccadilly, and its Intercity Executive livery. The reason for the executive livery and the name is Longsight depot was a depot that dealt with Intercity stock at sectorisation in 1982, and she was painted in this livery as she was supposed to be the station pilot at Manchester Piccadilly Station. However, it was soon realised that in fact it was the responsibility of the parcels sector to provide the station pilot at Manchester Piccadilly, and 08721 Starlet would be the regular performer. Now that locomotive carried a blue livery with red and yellow stripes on it and the Red Star symbol. That didn't preclude this locomotive from making appearances at Manchester Piccadilly as well. She was later moved, after the introduction of driving van trailers onto the West Coast Main Line, she was later moved to Allerton Depot in Liverpool, where final withdrawal came in 1995. Stripped for spares, she was finally scrapped in 2004, although the official scrapping location was given as Allerton. In fact, I've seen photographs of this machine in a heavily stripped state at Crewe, and I would imagine that was where final scrapping took place. She was, as far as I'm aware, according to my book Locomotives and Coaching Stock, the only Class 08 shunt attached to carry the executive livery as you see here. A couple of 08s just had the normal executive livery without any of the branding, and a couple of 08s had the swallow livery, i.e., this sort of livery but with a swallow motif for intercity, as you'll see in our later locomotives. A Class 09 also got this livery, but with just the BR symbol on it, 09012 at Stewart's Lane. It was a Gatwick Express shunter. A very notable machine indeed. To get this locomotive into position does take a lot longer, so when I wind it back I won't bother starting it up, I'll just use it without sound. This is of course the only sound fitted machine on the layout, 47346, and she is painted in the Civil Engineers Dutch livery that she carried from around about 1990 time. 47346 was built at the Brush Falcon Works at Loughborough in the East Midlands in Leicestershire, and she carried the number D1827, and she came into being on the 18th of March 1965. She initially carried the BR dual green, two-tone green livery with yellow warning panels. The locomotive itself was one of a batch of 81 Class 47s that were built without any train heating equipment, and they were purely for freight and departmental use. That didn't mean that they didn't get used on passenger or parcels work from time to time. In 1973 she was renumbered to 47346 under the top scheme, and that was the number she carried for the rest of her life. Interestingly, she was never actually named, and she was moved from Taunton to Crewe and then back to Taunton to allow her to get repainted into BR blue livery in 1973. She moved again from Taunton to Crewe in 1974, and it would be 1985 before she would move again, this time to Thornaby Depot on Teesside, where she gained the original Rail Freight large logo grey livery. But Thornaby, like Tinsley, was well known for its, shall we say, unauthorised customisations. 37501, probably the most famous of them all, Teesside Steelmaster. It gained the large logo light blue British Steel livery in 1987, and despite being told to repaint it back into Rail Freight large logo, Thornaby didn't. Doncaster done that in 1989 with the Rail Freight Metals livery, it got applied. But anyway, back to 47346. When she got the large logo Rail Freight grey livery, instead of Thornaby putting the number there underneath the cab side, what they done was they actually put numbers in the large logo, large numerals around about here somewhere, like on a large logo blue. Unauthorised, of course, but it was never altered by the depot. In 1991 she moved to Immingham, and this is actually where she got the Civil Engineers Dutch livery, as you could see here, and she's got the Immingham depot plaque on as well. She was allocated to the DCAA pool by that time, and she was moved about a few times to regional railways for some reason in the summer of 92 before heading to the freight sector, before she was actually withdrawn at Immingham depot in 1996, and she was cut up by Boothrow Metals of Rotherham in 1998. She was never named as well. That's just something else to point out to you. She never ever got a nameplate. This particular 47, like all the other 47s on the layout, is a Bachmann machine. Her number, as you can see, is 47436, and this was the first second-hand purchase that I had for the layout. I bought her from David Watson, who runs the Dean Park station layout, which you can see here on YouTube and Facebook as well. This particular 47436 was built in 1964, and she was built at Crewe, Crewe. She was numbered D1552 and was fitted with steam heat boiler. In the early 70s she was renumbered to 47436, when she actually also gained train heating, electric train supply equipment, which is train heating, lighting and air conditioning. That took place in November 1973, the renumbering, and having moved from Darnall to Tinsley, she stayed around the West Midlands area before moving to Crewe in 1973, and it was there that she would stay for 12 years, being repainted from blue livery into large logo blue livery, as she carries here, whilst at Crewe. In 1985 she was moved to Gateshead depot, and it was from there on that she actually started to go for a bit of a round tour, because she went to Bescott and then back to Crewe in 1987 before moving to Tinsley in the summer of 1990. She was named, incidentally, but not an official naming. It was a painted on name, something that Tinsley were actually quite, shall we say, good at. She gained the name Buznack, and that was done on the 19th of July 1990 at Tinsley. However, her stay in that livery was not long, because she moved to Inverness in autumn of 1991 and then was withdrawn just 3 months later in December 1991. Her final journey was to the now defunct MC Metals in Glasgow, when she was cut up in August 1993, still carrying this large logo blue livery. One other thing I must point out right now about this machine, which may not be apparent, was that she has here this grey roof, and some Class 47s had silver roofs. That's just the way that they're modelled here. Unfortunately, I've not seen any machines that have the silver Stratford roof, so I just wanted to make that point straight away to you. But that's 47436. You'll notice as well, by the way, I haven't put any of the header tail lights on this video, and I do apologise for that. So the last locomotive in this first part of the the review of the fleet I've got here, is 47444. This machine is named University of Nottingham, and it received those nameplates by the Chancellor of the University, Sir Gordon Hobbaday, at Nottingham on the 14th of May 1981. Before we got into the history of the locomotive, we'll just talk about this one here. This was actually a purchase from Harbour and Hobby's model shop in Edinburgh, shop that I've been to many a time. It was in fact the only one they had left, and the machine itself is in excellent condition. It was a display item, but the test run, they gave it a test run for me so I could see it operating. Ostensibly a parcels locomotive, should be hauling passenger trains mainly on the layout. 47444 was built with a Spanner Mark III boiler at Crewe, and she entered traffic on the 11th of March 1964 as D1560. She carried just 3 liveries in her life: the two-tone green BR livery, the rail blue livery, and then large logo livery with the grey roof, as you can see here. It's very light grey, but I think that's probably just about accurate. Like 47436, she was moved to Tinsley in 1964, and she worked at other sheds including March Depot in East Anglia in 1965, back to Tinsley in 68, Shed 40B Immingham took her in 1968 in November, and then she moved to Bescott in May 1973. Numbered 47444 officially in 1974, she remained at Bescott until 1981 when she moved to Taunton Depot. She moved then again to Crewe Depot in 1983 when she became a parcel sector locomotive. And she remained there at Crewe until November 1990, when, following the introduction of Class 158s onto the ScotRail Express network, several Class 47s from north of the border were moved down temporarily to south of the border to Crewe Depot for Transpennine work, and this meant that 47475, which you'll see in the next video, was moved to parcels along with a couple of other machines, 47572 and 47712, and this allowed the withdrawal of 47444. The nameplates were removed at the time of withdrawal in 1990, and she was withdrawn in November 1990, but reinstated 4 years later in May 1994, but then was withdrawn again. She was finally cut up by MRJ Phillips at Crewe Works in July 1995, having not carried any other livery than the 3 that I've already mentioned to you. So that's the first of these 4 locomotives that are on the layout for you. You'll notice that I've only mentioned to you their BR days. I've not gone into whether any of them, what they've done after privatisation. And because the layout's set in BR sectorisation days, I don't intend to, unless it is of special significant interest, and that'll actually happen with a couple of locomotives later on. So that's the first 4 locos for you. Now the next 4 locomotives that we'll be taking a look at on the layout, and I'll have to actually look around the layout to make sure I get the actual numbers of them right, will be 461, 474, 475, and if I can just get down and have a look to make sure that I get this right, it should be 535. So that, if I've got my calculations right, will be the next 4 locomotives we'll be taking a look at. So in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed this first quick look at the fleet that I've got, and We'll see you again soon. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye for now.